Virtual wholesaling BS, or does it actually work in reality? That is the topic of today's video on the Real Estate Investing Fast Track. Thank you for listening or watching, depending on what platform you're on. If you're not familiar with me, my name's Greg Helbeck. I've been a full-time entrepreneur in the real estate space now for almost a decade. I've done 1/4 of 1,000 properties. That sounds pretty cool, right? The reason I say that is because I know what I'm talking about. I have a lot to learn, but I have a lot of experience that I can share with you on this podcast. Like I always say, if you've listened before, this is not regurgitated theory out of a book. This is practical knowledge from the trenches. And on today's REI Weekly lesson, I am going to debunk on if virtual wholesaling is a scam/bad business model or not. I'm actually going to go off of someone's Facebook post I saw. I'm going to paraphrase some of it and give you my opinion on the post. And then I'll add some lessons along the way so you can decide for yourself. Do you want to do nationwide wholesaling or not? Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes, if you get value from this video on YouTube, subscribe and like the video. It would really mean a lot to me. I want to get to 1,000 subscribers within the next 5 months. Share the show with your friends and share the show on social media. So let's get into the main topic, or the main event, as we would say in the UFC world. So I'm going off of someone's Facebook post here, and I'm not going to name names, obviously. I'm going to try to paraphrase this so it can't get reverse engineered. By the way, really respect the person who made this post, so I'm not bashing them at all. I'm just reading what they said. I don't understand nationwide wholesaling. There's more money to be made in your backyard or in one specific market. It's much easier. That was a paraphrase. Basically saying, why would you do it virtual nationwide when you can just get really good in 1 or 2 markets? And there is some truth to that statement. So I'm not completely disagreeing with that person. I think depending on where you live will determine if your market is really viable for a brand new person. As I go through the comments here on this post, I'm just reading here. Someone said, somebody on the other side of the country who has no connection with a local area pretty much can't be of any service to the seller. What's the appeal for working with someone like that? I once worked with a listing agent from a wholesaler out of the West Coast, and he was a good guy to work with. He's professional, but at the end of the day, he could not provide anything that I could have done myself. So I don't really see why virtual wholesaling makes sense. And then another person commented saying, I work for a PPL company. It can be easier for somebody to buy leads from that PPL company if they want to go nationwide because the leads are cheaper versus just targeting one area where the leads can be really expensive. And he basically said, if you want to buy cheaper leads, you're going to have to go national. I agree with that 100%. I think if you're brand new, you don't have a big budget, you want to buy leads from a pay-per-lead company, if you go nationwide, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to get leads and conversions. Now, selling the properties is a different story, which I'll get into in a minute. But basically, the person who made the post commented on the guy who made the pay-per-lead post and was like, it sounds like you're just plugging your company, which I don't think is the right thing to say, but this is America. You can do whatever you want. I agree with both sides of the story here. And I do virtual wholesaling. I wouldn't necessarily say I do national wholesaling, but I've done deals in random markets from a national perspective just when we've gotten good leads. So here's my take on the whole thing, all right? First things first, if you're not familiar with what national wholesaling is, it's essentially either buying leads from a national pay-per-lead provider like Property Leads or LeadZolo or Need to Sell My House Fast, or running your own Google ads or Facebook marketing, and you target the entire country. You get leads from literally all over the place. Like at 9 a.m., you can get a lead in Kentucky, and then 10 a.m., you can get a lead in Washington. Generally speaking, if you're doing that, you are going to have a lower cost per lead because if you let Google or you let these lead providers send you leads from anywhere, they're going to get leads much cheaper because you're willing to take them wherever you can get them, right? So if you're doing this on a local model, let's say you're in Dallas, Texas, and you're only targeting the metroplex of Dallas, the lead cost is going to be a lot higher. You're going to most likely get less leads, and there's going to be a little bit more of a higher stakes situation when you're converting these people because you spent a lot of money on the leads. Is virtual wholesaling stupid? Does it actually help sellers? My opinion is it is not stupid, and it does help sellers if you know what you're doing. So how do we really understand if you know what you're doing? What does that really mean? Number one, you have to understand how to value property, no matter where you are. And it's not that hard to do that if you have the right training. I would recommend you check my training out, maybe if you're interested in that. If you want to learn more about that, just send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. But anyway, if you know how to value property, and you can use Zillow and Redfin and understand market data, pendings, comps, all that stuff, I think it's a great business model because what you can do is you can help people who might not have anyone else they can work with because their property's in the middle of nowhere or whatever the case might be. Here's what I'll say in terms of what the person who made the post said regarding it's better to go local. Now, it's going to depend on your market. Let's say you're a brand new real estate investor, you don't know your ass from your elbow, and you live in Long Island, New York, for example. Okay. That's going to be pretty tough to do. Now, can you do it? Of course. You're going to have to really be persistent and consistent and be willing to fight the good fight for a while. But learning how to do this business in Long Island, New York is a lot different than learning how to do the business in Birmingham, Alabama. For example, in Long Island, you have higher prices, you have savvy sellers, you have attorneys. In Birmingham, you're going to have lower prices, you're going to have no attorneys, you're going to have less savvy sellers. So it depends on where you live. If you live in an expensive, high-end, sophisticated area like Long Island or Seattle or Miami, you can still do it, but you got to really go in with your eyes open and understand it's going to be 3 times as hard and going to take 3 times as long. Now, if you're local to a cheaper market, like I mentioned earlier, Birmingham, Alabama, Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, or with something like that, you should probably go local. You shouldn't go national because it's not that hard to do deals in those areas because you have cheaper price points, easier sellers, etc. If you're watching this and you're like, Greg, I'm in a really expensive market. I don't really want to do it in my local market. I think national wholesaling could be a great business model. The 2 people I would actually refer you to learn how to do it national are Nick Perry and Chris Chico. Chris Chico is more for beginners, so if you're brand new and you want to learn how to do it, check out Chris Chico. You spell his name Chrischico. He's phenomenal. He's a very good friend of mine, and he knows what he's doing. Now, let's say you are established and you've done deals and you want to scale your business nationally. I'd check out Nick Perry. I know him as well. He's a great guy. Just type in Nick Perry Real Estate. You'll find him. These people know what they're talking about when it comes to national wholesaling, and they're making money every single week. If you're going to do it national, like I mentioned earlier, you have to know how to value properties in any given market by using pretty much Zillow and Redfin, maybe PropStream. The other thing you need to do if you're doing it national and you're going to do it at scale, in my opinion, is you got to understand how to take properties to the MLS either via a novation or via a wholesale deal on the MLS. So there's going to be some properties. I was just looking at this at a property the other day with my friend that you can't necessarily sell to a cash buyer off market, but you can probably sell to a certain type of buyer on market. For example, if you get a property in the middle of nowhere and you see no local cash buyers, but you see there's a lot of activity on the retail market, you have to know how to get those properties under contract and then sell the contracts or sell the property via a novation on the market, because a lot of the times in rural areas, that's the only option you have. If you're not willing to learn how to do that, you probably shouldn't go national. But if you are open to learning how to put properties on the market before you close on them, doing a novation or an assignment, you can go national, because if you have the MLS to sell your properties, it's going to give you a way higher chance of success. So to summarize this whole video, I disagree with the post on I don't understand the allure of national wholesaling. However, I agree with comments like you should probably go deeper in your own market. I think that dependent upon where you live. Like I said earlier, if you're in Long Island, going to be a lot harder to do it versus if you live in Birmingham, Alabama. I think national wholesaling works. There's people making money in it all the time. I think now in today's day and age with the way technology is, it's much easier to do national wholesaling with the data that we have and the advertising we can do. The benefits of national wholesaling are that you can do the whole thing in front of your computer and on the phone. You never have to go to a property. You never have to meet an owner in person. You never have to meet a buyer in person. And you can pivot around the country and just do deals with sellers who are motivated. And that's another thing I'll mention, and then I'll end the video, is if you're doing inbound marketing, whether you're buying leads from a company or you're doing the lead gen yourself on a PPC or a Facebook standpoint, you're going to be able to spend less money and get better quality leads, because if your targeting is super broad, then you're just going to get better leads because you're giving Google or these lead companies a bigger leash to target or a bigger area to target. So that's my point on it. National wholesaling works. If you want to do it, you got to go in with your eyes open. If you want to go deep in your own market, that also works pretty well. I've done that before, and I still do that. Obviously, I've done both. Hopefully, this was a helpful video. If you got value, do me a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, and then share it on social media. And by the way, if you're local to New York, San Diego, Reno, Seattle, or Delaware, and you have a property you want to wholesale to me or wholesale with me, either way is fine. Send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, or send me an Instagram DM at grego37. I'll see you on the next REI weekly lesson.